My name is Pagan. I wanted to thru-hike the Backbone Trail, so I started looking for information on it. But I didn't find anything useful. So I started putting together all of the pieces myself. And now that I had all that information, I decided to make a YouTube video and create an informative video with everything I wish I had from the beginning. Southern California, in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. At the southern tip, part of the Mojave Desert, followed by the Transverse Mountain Range. This is squeezed in by the North American Plate and the Pacific Plate. The Transverse Range is comprised of the Santa Monica Mountains, the San Gabriel Mountains, and the San Bernardino Mountains. The Backbone Trail is inside the Santa Monica Mountains. The Backbone Trail is an officially designated National Recreation Trail. It is northwest of Los Angeles. It is north of the Pacific and transversely positioned from west to east. It travels along the California Santa Monica Mountains and is anywhere from 66 to 70 miles of trail, depending on the various trail options you decide to walk. The Backbone Trail follows along the ridges of the Boney Mountain on the west, through the Zuma and Trancas canyons, and finally through the Topanga canyons on the far east. The two endpoints on the east is the Will Rogers State Historic Park, and on the west is the La Jolla Canyon at the Ray Miller Trailhead. Throughout the trail, there are a number of spots that you'll want to see, whether they're springs, water zones, viewpoints such as Inspiration Point, Sandstone Peak, which is the highest point in elevation, campgrounds, trailheads, major road crossings, waterfalls, so many more things. The GPX coordinates for the full Backbone Trail plus locations can be downloaded in the video description. These locations are from my walks on the trail, along with a very informative book by Doug and Caroline Chamberlain, The Complete Hiker's Guide to the Backbone Trail. So what's the actual distance of the BBT, this Backbone Trail? It really just depends on where you look and what trails you're going to end up taking. On Google's list, it's 67.79 miles. On All Trails, they list it at 63.8 miles. The Backbone Trail Guide by the Chamberlains, 69.12 miles. So I put together a GPX route on the Gaia GPS system. And what's the distance that I came up with? 66.2 miles. I was very careful to select only the official Backbone Trail trails and none of the other alternates that would be cool to go see. 66.2. But also, interestingly enough, on the ascent and descent, you'll see that it's 18,000 up, 18,000 back, and there's a 3,100 foot elevation max, which is going to be Sandstone Peak. It's a lot of up and down. 66.2. So what's the difference? Why so many differences? Well, the differences are really based on alternates. Do you take alternate routes to see things, or do you stay on the BBT official trail? Now, in this case, we're in the Boney Mountains, and the official trail takes you to Sandstone Peak, which is the highest elevation in the Santa Monica Mountains. But, interestingly enough, if you took this 2.9 miles on the alternate and you added it, you end up with 69.12, the exact number the Chamberlains came up with, which is very interesting. But I also agree. If I'm up here, I'll take the Mishe Mokwa Trail, and I want to see the Balanced Rock. I want to see Split Rock. Those are very cool. Balanced Rock is this giant boulder that just shouldn't be still standing. I'd add on the far left, I'd add the Tri-Peaks Trail. There's a Tri-Peaks Trail that breaks off right there. It adds 0.5 miles up, 0.5 miles back. There's another mile there. So sticking with the Backbone official trail, 66.2, but there's so many alternate trails to go see cool stuff. Let's take a look at the actual trail itself now. Often people go from the East Coast through Santa Monica side, but I started the trail on the west because I come from a much better city, much better climate in Port Hueneme and Oxnard. I took the PCH1, very simple for me, Pacific Coast Highway. Interesting enough, this is actually Magoo Rock. It's a very famous rock that's in a lot of movie scenes, and actually a little bit lesser known rock here. This rock is actually a lot of people practice their climbing skills. That's a side note. Let's get on to La Jolla Canyon. And in La Jolla Canyon, this takes you to the Ray Miller Trailhead. This is closed up at, they lock it at evening, and they reopen it at 8 a.m., I think, in the morning. It's a parking campground. And this is the Ray Miller Trailhead. In La Jolla Canyon, out of the Ray Miller Trailhead, the actual first destination that we're going to go to is Danielson, which is down here. That is an 8-mile trail. To get to there, after that, there is another 8 miles, 7.5 to here, 8 miles up the Boney Mountains to get to the Sandstone Peak, which would be the highest mountain, the highest location on the trail. So the very first thing you're going to notice is when you're first starting out, it's a good warm up. You're going to get up to 1,100 feet. Right off the bat, it's a nice way to warm up. There's a couple locations here as you're walking to get incredibly good vistas, whether it's the sand berm or just out into the ocean along Magoo Rock over there. And you're going to be taking this trail ridge. You're going to take this ridge trail all the way across. There are a number of locations where you could get sidetracked. Make sure that you are following the correct trail. Following the ridge trail. So let's back this off. So up here is where there was a split that I took a different route. So the Backbone Trail heads through here into the Sycamore Canyon Trail road, dirt road access. I wanted to see if this spring was available, was still active, and this spring down here was still active. They are not. They are dry, and there's very few places that there is water on this trail. Keep that in mind. So I took the Wood Canyon Road down into here, and rather than get on the Sycamore Canyon Trail, this is more of just a dirt road rather than a trail, I took the Two Foxes Trail. I took that because it actually runs parallel. The Two Foxes Trail is very nice, good footpath, like what you'd expect. Very nice. And the Two Foxes Trail gets me up to this location, and then I can just connect and get to the Danielson Ranch. And here's our Danielson Ranch at 8 miles. It is a privately owned ranch. Do not go there and bother the people that own that. It is fenced in as well. Your destination is actually this ring back here. This is a stone ring. It's a stone camping grounds. It's open to the public. It actually has running water, a faucet with running water. The Danielson Ranch. After that, you're going to have an 8-mile trek up the Boney Mountain Ridge you're on your way towards Sandstone Peak. There's a number of peaks along the way. There's the Exchange Peak, Inspiration Point, Boney Peak. Of course, the highest one is Sandstone Peak. And this is the location that I had shown earlier where they had an alternate route. It's the Mishe Mokwa Trail. The Tri-Peaks Trail I mentioned is a place you probably want to go. It's 3 peaks all in one. It's a nice place to look at. There's also a theme based on water. Is there water at the waterfall? No. Is there water at this stream? No. At the spring? No, there is not. Sandstone Peak, the Skull Rock, Split Rock, Balance Rock. These along the Mishe Mokwa Trail. I advise you to take a look at them. Sandstone Peak, you're going to take a look at this one here. Look at the vista that you get to view along the way. Walking through the low-level clouds is great. It's like walking through an air conditioner on those hot days. But it does affect the view a bit. Lovely. By the time you reach Sandstone Peak, you're going to be about 16 miles in from where I came through. You're either going to want to do things like stealth camp or find a location to get down off the ridge in order to get a place. This campground is a Circle X campground. This location here is actually the Sandstone Peak Trailhead, and this is the Mishe Mokwa Trailhead. You'll take the ridge trail down to this location, and if you're going to be heading your way to the Circle X ranch, they do have a running water faucet. Sandstone Peak Trailhead, dry. Mishe Mokwa, dry. The Mishe Mokwa Trailhead is about 17 miles from the La Jolla Canyon start. It's dry, it's split by a road. The Sandstone Peak is also dry, but it does have a drop toilet. Don't expect it to be clean though. After the Mishe Mokwa Trailhead, the very next destination, which is a 10-mile ridge walk, is the Encinal Canyon Trailhead. An interesting start right after Mishe Mokwa is this Circle X Ranch mountain here. So the Backbone Trail goes around the top, but there is a trail that goes to the top, and on the top there is a cement base, 4 pylons, very large, that used to be the bottom of must have been a very large tower. Another place that you might want to stealth camp as long as the winds are not high, because of course, what a nice place to camp, eh? Alright, back to the trailhead. So taking the ridge walk, it's a 10-mile walk along the ridge. You're going to cross the 23, which is now closed road. It will stay closed indefinitely. This is the Encinal Canyon Road, and there's actually 2 locations. The first location here is the Encinal Canyon Trailhead, and down here was an option for water. Now I say that's an option for water because this is actually the fire department base, and I thought, well, if I walk down there and ask them, could I get some water out of your hoses, please? I assume they'd let me, but again, don't expect water to be anywhere. Encinal Canyon Trailhead. You come down the trail from there. This is a road that crosses alongside of the trailhead, and this is the continuation of the Backbone Trail on the way up. The Encinal Canyon Road takes you up a very windy road, takes you to the Encinal Canyon Trailhead. Now, that trailhead, it's going to take you to the next trailhead, and that is at Newton Canyon. It is approximately 5 miles along this Backbone Trail, and that's going to take you to the Newton Canyon Trailhead, and right next to it is the Zumas Trancas Trailhead. This road here is the Kanan Doom Road. As I said, it's a 5-mile walk, and let's start the thing. Inside here, you're going to go to 2 footbridges that cross these water zones, which are now dry. They are not very well cared for. These Trancas Canyon footbridges are way beyond disrepair. They were only made back when the Governor Arnold Schwartzenegger dedicated some land and put his block with his symbol on it. Other than that, they've just been left detritus. So passing by footbridge 1 and 2, the Governor's dedication monument is somewhere right here as soon as you get up to this ridge after the 2nd footbridge. You're going to end up taking this part of the route along this part of the ridge, not the highest ridge, but you'll be following along the Backbone Trail ridge until you get to the Zuma Waterfall, which is a nice little place. This is all shrub, all scrub. I had high hopes here. Even though I didn't actually see falling water, I saw wet rocks. From the Zuma Waterfall, that takes you along the Zuma Creek. You'll actually follow along the Zuma Creek, and the very next location, which what I was very hopeful for, was right here. It's the Zuma Creek water crossing.
This is the very first time I found water from a natural source on the Backbone Trail due to all of the droughts. This is approximately 30 miles from the Ray Miller Trailhead where I started. After the Zuma Creek water crossing, the next location is here. This is called the Zumas Trancas Trailhead. It's really just a dirt parkway off of the road. After that is the Newton Canyon Waterfall. As you're taking the Backbone Trail, you'll see whether there's water flowing through here. Although it lists that there's a trail here, you are going to bushwhack your way through. There's kind of a trail here, but there is no trail here. And guess what? Do you think there's any water? Let's take a look. After this location, you're going to go back up the top and you're going to end up in the final one, which is the Newton Kanan Canyon Trailhead. As with all of these trailheads, there is no water available. From the Newton Kanan Trailhead, there is going to be two more trailheads that we're going to hit here that aren't necessarily easy. The one is the Latigo Canyon Trailhead, which has a roadway to it, but the one that I utilized for a water spot was the Corral Canyon Trailhead. So from the Newton Canyon Trailhead, you're going to go over the road here. This is actually a tunnel the road goes through, and you'll be going over the top. You're going to be taking this ridge walk here until you get to Latigo Canyon Trailhead, right there. From the Latigo Canyon Trailhead, taking through the Santa Monica Mountains. On here, you're up here going into the Solstice Canyon. This is actually the Solstice Canyons. You're going to see Solstice Canyon down here, and this is the Upper Solstice Canyon. And in here, very cool spot. It's the Upper Solstice Canyon Hidden Meadow. You'll notice that a lot of these trees have blackened bark from the fires. The trees are still alive and well. The meadow's awesome, and it's a very nice place to have lunch under. Kind of makes me wish I had a little garden out there too. From the meadow is another location I was kind of hoping might work out for me, and that is the Solstice Creek Waterfall. No, it was completely dry. And that brings us eventually up here into the Corral Canyon Trailhead. From the Corral Canyon Trailhead was actually a nice little park bench, which is actually somewhat underneath this tree. It's a very nice little thing. It's a good view, as you can see from here. But the coolest thing about this are these rocks formations right here. It's hard to see them, but I'll spin it around and you're going to see these little stones. Little, yeah, quite big stones. They look like a claw coming up out of the ground. You got the thumb, there's a finger right here. Finger, finger, and finger. It's hard to see from this 3D perspective on the map because you can't really get the height of those specific rocks. So let's take a look at them now. And now the rocks, you continue to climb along here. This is just a beautiful view of some of these rocks, whether you're looking this side or this side. Scrambling along, absolutely quite fun. Scrambling along, this is the Corral Canyon caves, and the Corral Canyon Trailhead was right back this way a bit. So you're going to take this ridge walk. There's a couple other cool things to see. More scrambling on top of these bare rocks. Very awesome. Just so neat when you're looking out at this scape, and you're literally climbing on top, looking down through here. These are just really awesome views. And the only thing, it reminds me of the Vasquez rocks that are in Aqua Dulce, the ones that Star Trek, they did with the Zorn fight with the old Captain Kirk and the hammer. So another interesting part is this here. This is actually a ring. It's man-made. Someone decided to put together a bunch of rocks to create this formation. It's interesting, but what's cooler is actually there's some neat cave right in here and along this side. All right, getting out of the Corral Canyon Caves, what we're trying to get to is it's a 5-mile walk along this ridge, and you're going down to the Tapia Park, down here, Tapia Park, and it's Tapia Park, Piuma Trailhead, which is right here. It's 5 miles from that Corral Canyon, taking this road. Now some alternates, as you can see right off the top, is Mesa Peak. It's about a third of the mile to get to Mesa Peak, and come back in. You're at another half mile to your backbone trail. There is a slight bit of a way to get up onto this one, onto this hill. McAuley, that's it, McAuley Peak. I had forgotten the name. McAuley Peak. It was a little bit of a steep scramble, but you kind of have to get around the main boulder that you're facing, and it is up, guys. It is. It's lower here and then up here, but you can get up on top. And this was just more for a reference. It's a big, tall, rusty water tower, and no longer used. Just a big rusty tower. And then backing off out of here, we're heading our way towards Tapia Park, the Malibu Canyon Road, and Malibu Canyon Trailhead. Here's the Malibu Canyon Piuma Park Trailhead. From here, we're crossing across Malibu Creek, and this was the second time we finally got a natural resource. It's very cool, very steep, very thick, a lot of water down here. And to cross, you'd have to cross down across the water, come across this way. Then there is a bit more of a water cross underneath the Malibu Canyon roadway. The easiest way to go, rather than just walk here, since you have to get to the Piuma road crossing anyway, is just take the road. There's an actual walkway with a guarded rail that you can just take across here, and that will get you to the Piuma road crossing. Out of the Tapia Park, Malibu Canyon, Piuma Road Trailhead. The next trailhead is a distance of approximately 10 miles. It's a very high up and a very high down. Topanga, which is the Dead Horse Trailhead. From the view, it's going to be coming from here at approximately 44, and the final is somewhere around 55. So it's about 11 in this case, depending on if you take any of the alternates. So taking the Piuma Road, the very first thing you're going to see here, the California Wilderness Center. And you're going to see that there's a lot of little buildings. You'll see buildings along this way as the trail is going to walk you by. And there's a roadway that goes down in here, and there's the wilderness center right there. Up we go. Time to get up this mountain. You're going by Meadow, which is right here, going to be underneath you as you're up high. And then it's going to be starting to go up. We're going to start going up the Saddle Peak Mountain here. And Saddle Peak Mountain is going to be right about here is when you're going to start getting a really steep. It's up, but right here you're going to get a lot of switchbacks and you're just going to go straight up. It's a shorter distance overall, but it's definitely a little bit of a climb. And the whole time that you're trying to get to Saddle Peak is a couple times you're going to actually see this gigantic rockway in here. Up here is the Saddle Rock Garden. All of this is considered the Saddle Rock Garden. And this big gigantic boulder here is called the Gateway Rock. And this crevice, this long rock here is called the Corpse Wall. We found a dead body down here somewhere. You'll see why in a moment. There's a kind of like hewn through here for you to get up and get through it, and it's got quite a neat little look to it.
So that's Corpse Wall there, and that's the Gateway Rock. Very large. You can see people up top. They're actually zip lining, they're running a small cable across, and there was a girl up there just so close, young, but she must have known what she was doing. Very scary for me up there. Those are such big things. You can see why there was a dead body down at the bottom. This is just part of the Saddle Rock Garden. There's just so many rocks, and that's Corpse Wall. And there you can see right there between, it's kind of like etched through with stone. Just try to get between the two. This is on top of the Corpse Wall, and there's the Saddle Peak over there with the radio tower, and the Corpse Wall is just this long thing, and I walked up it, but oh boy, they were ziplining across, as you can see. I walked up the Corpse Wall, and it whew.
Further away, up here, you're going to think, well, hey, I want to get to the Saddle Peak, right? Why can't I get to Saddle Peak? Right, that's the 2792, that's the high zone. Well, the reason you cannot get to Saddle Peak is because it is a radio tower. A radio tower is built on top of it, and this entire area is coated around with gigantic fence of, not just a fence, built of Constantino wire, the entire thing. It is more of a compound than anything. But for an overall look, this over here is the Saddle Peak overlook, and you get quite a good view from here when Saddle Peak itself is off of limits. Now with Saddle Peak and the Saddle Peak overlook, you actually get quite a nice little view for the overlook. You can look back at Saddle Peak, and you can actually see the radio tower back here, and you can see a lot of the trail that you're going to end up walking as you can see it through. This is the Saddle Peak water tower, and it goes through here. This over here is the Topanga Lewis Ewen lookout trailhead, and you can see it's still going by. Then there's a slight curvature out for an alternate that we're going to get to in a moment. So let's take a look at some of this. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is the Saddle Peak overlook.
An old cement base for something that was strapped there. There's the Saddle Peak water tower, and then there's the Great View. And the way the trails there go to an X. That's the Topanga Lewis Ewen lookout trailhead, and of course the Pacific Ocean.
taking the Crest Trail all the way to the Owen Ewen. Then this becomes an alternate here. The Backbone Trail goes along this way and starts going down into Topanga Canyon and to Topanga going down. But I suggest you as well, take this alternate route. You're going to bypass this microwave center. It is a very active microwave center. And the thing is, you're going to get onto this, it's called the Stony Hill Lookout, the Rosas Stony Hill Lookout. It's very popular. It's an old destroyed ruins of a tower, for a radio tower that's no longer there, and the views here are absolutely incredible when you're looking out from it. It is a ruins of cement pads and lots of graffiti. Heading back. Then we're going to be taking this Backbone Trail, and it starts getting steep. You can see how tight the contour lines are, and it's a straight down. Make sure it's tough on your knees, guys. So this one here, one of the first little spots here is the Paul Bragg Cabin.
According to the Complete Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Backbone Trail by the Chamberlains, the ruins here, stone foundations mostly, are all that are left of the cabin that belonged to nutritionist and wellness movement pioneer Paul Bragg. The cabin burned in 1993.
The next is the Purple Gorge Overlook. Purple Gorge Overlook. This is interesting. It was cool. It wasn't as nice as some of just getting up on those peaks, of course. And then following down, this is an open grassland. So by the time you hit out here, you're actually following open grassland on one side and higher. These are midget trees or trees and brush. And then you're going to cross the Topanga Canyon, the old Topanga Canyon Road. It is an active road and it is quite tough. So here is the Topanga Elementary School, which is right here, the Topanga Elementary School. And this is the Topanga Elementary School towers. And there is a lot of walkways in here that I started to get lost. I have a GPS. I think what happens is a lot of the kids and the workers here have a lot of their own private personal trails that zigzag around through here, and they are very used. So the ones that are used least in some cases for the Backbone Trail, they were lost. They were difficult to find. I had to hike up things. One of the interesting things I found was the outdoor stage here. By the time I finally found the correct Backbone trails, I had walked quite a bit around here. And then off I'm going downhill, finishing my downhill off the Saddle Peak. And this is the Topanga Creek crossing. The Topanga Creek is completely dry. There is no water, of course. And finally, crossing the road, we're going to end up here at the Dead Horse Trailhead. This is a bathroom, and there is a water faucet on the outside that is broken, does not work. As normal, any of the trailheads do not expect to find water. That is just expect that. Dead Horse Trailhead. Here we are off to the Dead Horse Footbridge, which I do not have a image for, but as you can see, there'll be some, it's similar to the earlier ones, to the later ones for the Mush Trail. There'll be beams of wood, just for allowing horseback to more easily walk through here, and for landslide. And under here there's a footbridge which goes across a small bit of a dried out creek. As you can see, we're going to be a slight incline, and this is a very nice gentle incline. We're going to eventually get up but it isn't until we get past a little further. So as an option here for water, Trippet Ranch has water. But the first stop here was the pond. This, in a non-drought, this will have water in this stream and it'll pool here in a large pond. After the pond, we enter in through here to Trippet Ranch, where Trippet Ranch has a bathroom facility and it has multiple locations for running water. This is the Mush Trail, and this Mush Trail here actually has a faucet which is just sitting here with a marker to let you know the faucet at the time. Unfortunately, the faucet wasn't running. Here is the footbridge for the Mush Trail. That goes around. It's actually a bit of a bend that goes around on the build and up and down, and we're getting to the easiest. This is the easy part of this trail, and eventually we're going to get up. Nice walk, nice view, nice walk, and into a popular area for the Mush campsite. So in the Mush campsite, there's a bathroom here which was locked when I was there, but it did have a running water faucet right about here. And these are some stalls where you can set up your tent. And it's first come, first serve, I believe. Some picnic benches and such. Onward and next. Now we're going to start climbing up. It's time to start getting up to Eagle Rock. As you can see, here we go. It's a very nice trail, very easy to go. But by the time I hit up into this location here, I started finding burn zones. Burn zones through here. And as soon as I got over this top here, I noticed that the entire area was burned. As far as you can see, this entire area here, completely burned. I had not seen anything like that before, where it was just flying powdered snow of ash.
don't know how it comes across, but that's all you smell is barbecue pit. There's ash everywhere. It is powdered ash. It is everywhere, and it just makes clouds and clouds of ash. Whew, boy.
So as it got worse as it kept going, so as it come around this bend, we reached, you could see Eagle Rock in the distance.
Eagles Rock.
After Eagle Rock, by the time you get up into the highest areas, right up in here, you get an extremely cool view of what is the land of death and the clouds of ash. That white ash, that is not from the winds driven. That's not some kind of condensation. That is ash, and it is bad. Was Eagle Spring running? No. As usual. So you're on top of the ridge. This is where things get nice and easy. So we're up to the highest sections, and there's no more real unless we get later up into some of the scrambles, which I'm gonna get to. So there's a bathroom here. It's an unnamed bathroom, which was locked. Just a little small toilet. Cathedral Rock was a cool little spot where you can scramble over the top. As you see when you're walking by it, it's a bit of a climb up here, but there's some scrambling areas. And once you get up there, it's got a really cool view. Looking over, as you can see, that cliff face and looking off in the distance. Very nice little spot. Little nice spot. Have another candy bar. So an option here is the Temescal Peak. You're already there. You might as well take the pathway. Now there's a scramble pathway around, and there's a nice pathway around. The scramble pathway, no matter what, you're going to get on it. And either way, you take one up and then one back, and to get back on there. It's a nice thing to look at. Again, you're adding to that the distance you're doing on the Backbone Trail. Temescal Canyon, and I wanted to back off so you can see how that looks from one mountain range line. These are it's the transverse range, how it's getting pressed in. It's a very cool look from here. Anyway, let's continue moving on. The unnamed 1755. It was always on there, so it's another nice way to hit the goat peak. Hit the goat peak. There's the highest point at this location, 1729. As you can see, 1755 seems a little higher, right? Up and back is what I came through. And you can take one of these, but this route was a nicer route than this one. And then here's the break off. So right here is where you end up with the Will Rogers Rodeo Trail, which is here along this edge, where you can get an excellent view of Santa Monica and LA off in the distance. And at night, it's incredible with the lights. Not that I've seen it at night, but I'm just assuming this must be incredible at night. During the day, it was beautiful as well. But the Backbone Trail takes the inside track, and it's going to be underneath your view, so you won't be able to see it. So in this case, do you take the Backbone Trail, which is a much nicer trail, by the way. This was nice and cushy to ride, to walk. Now this one, however, it started out decent, but it quickly got to Scramble, where I would just be falling on my ass. And this was just a death trap. I don't know who even thought this was a trail, but it gets used and it looks more like a rock slide of loose rock and sand. So coming up and down through here, you are going to scramble. It is loose rock. It is loose rock and it is not helpful. Your reconnection, and here we go, right into the chicken bridge. So the thing with the chicken bridge is this little funky little section here is because this was broken off. This has fallen back. This has fallen down through. The land is the ground underneath can't support. So the trail was made down through here with some I-beams. The chicken bridge itself is a wee bit sketchy in my opinion. After that, it's really home sailing. This part of the trail on this ridge is so used that it is just an easy walking path. Even this down, it's so well used. It's just an easy walking path. And this gets you off here to the first part, the Will Rogers.
This is Will Rogers' Inspiration Point. It's in a loop trail called the Inspiration Point Loop Trail around the Will Rogers, the backside of the Will Rogers Park. And there's two others just like it.
And finally, the last little section where you may or may not want to take it. There's two Inspiration Point looks from here, whether you're looking towards the Palisades or this one, which is actually the one that's for the Will Rogers, and you get partial view of the polo where the horses were running at the time. Horse trail, and very nice, and off we are back to Will Rogers section, where I ended up hiding right around in here underneath this shade tree waiting for my Uber. The Backbone Trail, the cell phone service. We're going to start at the Ray Miller Trailhead because that's where I started from on west to east. That was an 18-mile walk through Danielson Ranch, that I had no service until I got to the Mishe Mokwa Trailhead. As soon as I got onto that one, down to the trailhead itself, I got service. Then back onto the Backbone Trail, all the way to Encinal Canyon, the Encinal Trailhead, Canyon Trailhead, nothing. And then to the Kanan Trailhead, I had nothing. Except right here at the Zuma Creek water crossing. For whatever reason, I ended up with cell service there. Then the Latigo Trailhead, nothing. All the way to Corral Canyon, and nothing until I got right up top on Corral Canyon, very, very high. And then I got cell service right up there. Then after Corral Canyon, that takes me to the Tapia Park, Piuma Road crossing trailhead. I didn't get anything until I got on just past that trailhead. And when you're walking on the Backbone Trail, you're right above and facing Meadow to the north. And as long as you can see that, you're actually getting cell service. It's a little off and on there, but it's basically on. And then that brings you to Saddle Peak. And from Saddle Peak all the way to Topanga Canyon crossing, the old house, the old road, nothing. And until you get right up high As soon as you get to face towards Topanga and you start getting a little elevation there, you have service through Chipper Ranch, Mush Camp. Until you get to the Eagle Rock and the highest sections up top, then you're not going to get any service up there. Now that final section was the Will Rogers Trailhead, and when I took the Rodeo Trail, the Will Rogers Rodeo Trail, which is the one that walks the crest and you can actually see Santa Monica, I had service up there off and on when I was you kind of go around or up and down, but predominantly a service. But the Backbone Trail part on the inside, underneath that ridge, very little service at all. The Backbone Trail, water availability. We're going to start at the Ray Miller Trailhead because I go from west to east, as I've stated before. So, the Ray Miller Trailhead, supposedly it has water there. I never found any. Maybe there's some garden hose hooked up to some faucet somewhere. I didn't see it. But since I'm starting there, I brought my water with me. First stop for me was Danielson Ranch. They have a running water faucet that is 8 miles away. After Danielson Ranch, you're going to be going over the top of Sandstone Peak, and you're going to get to the Circle X Ranch campgrounds, not those trailheads, the campgrounds. There's a running water faucet that is 10 miles away. After Circle Ranch, however, you're going to have to go all the way to the Tapia Park, Piuma Road Crossing Trailhead, and that is 24 miles away. Now, at the Tapia Park Trailhead, what you have is the Malibu Creek. So as long as you have a Sawyer squeeze or some form of water filter, you can fill up your water from there. And even in the drought, there was plenty of water there. After that, the next stop is the Trippett Ranch for water. Trippett Ranch has multiple faucets and at that location for water. That is 12 miles from there. After Trippett Ranch, really close by is the Mush Camp. Mush Camp also has a water faucet, and it is 2 miles away from Trippett Ranch. Lastly is the Will Rogers Trailhead. They did have water. They had actually plumbing in the bathroom, so the sink ran, and there was a garden hose on the outside of, that you could fill in as well. But it is the end of the trail. That is 11 miles. Now for water. For me, it's 1 liter every 5 miles. I'm comfortable with that. That's my pattern. I don't have to ration water. I can drink as I want. And so anyway, that's for me. So at the beginning, I need 2 liters to go from Ray Miller Trailhead to Danielson. Now I need to have from the Circle Ranch, that's 2 more liters. And then for that long 24-mile trip, it's going to be 5 liters that I have to fill in. So what I needed to do is have a Canuck 2-liter bag that I filled up, and then my 2 liters that bring me to 4. And I actually have another one that I use for Gatorade and other electrolytes mixes. Filled that up to give you my 5 liters of water, and that takes you to the Tapia Trailhead. At Tapia Trailhead, I needed 3 liters of water filter used at the Malibu Creek. 3 liters gets me to Trippett Ranch, where I was already still somewhat loaded up. Added another liter, filled it in. I only needed 1 liter to the next one, but from Will Rogers is 2 liters, so I just made sure I filled up to 3 liters at the Trippett Ranch and carried it down to Will Rogers. Trailheads to bring or stash your own water. Now this is for through hiking. If you are part of the Backbone Trail Association, these are the same trailheads that would be very nice to have actually water so that this trail can be done with an unassisted through hike. That would be very good for this trail. I would like to be able to do it without having to bury water. So, starting in the upper left here, Mishe Mokwa Trailhead. That's going to take us to Encinal Trailhead. Then the next water spot will be Kanan Trailhead. Then Corral Canyon Trailhead. Tapia Park, Piuma Road Trailhead, and finally the Dead Horse Trailhead. Now, starting from west to east, Ray Miller Trailhead. This is taking into account that the Danielson Ranch water faucet is no longer functional, which does happen sometimes, whether there's a fire or there's maintenance on the current plumbing. So it's not always there. So in the event that it isn't there, as I had to plan for, that was an 18-mile hike. At least it was my start to where I can get water at the Mishe Mokwa Trailhead. Now from Mishe Mokwa to Encinal Canyon Trailhead, well, that ended up being 9 miles. And then from Encinal to Kanan, that's 5. And then from Kanan to Corral Canyon, 6 miles. From Corral Canyon to Tapia Trailhead, that makes 5 miles. And then from Tapia all the way to Dead Horse, there's 11 miles. Now the final one is from Dead Horse to Will Rogers, which is 13 miles left. Now that's taking into account that the Mush Camp and the Trippet Ranch faucets are not functional. So for me, it's 1 liter every 5 miles. As I said before, this is what's comfortable for me. And so let's start off. That means the beginning of the trail, I actually had to carry 4 liters of water because I planned for the Danielson Ranch faucet to not be functional. It was functional, but that was not what I needed. I couldn't expect it to be. So 4 liters of water, but at least I started out that way. After that, Mishe Mokwa, I picked up my 2 liters and I was able to just fill in to get myself to Encinal. And then from Encinal to Kanan, I only had 1 liter. From Kanan to Trailhead, Kanan to Corral, only needed 1 liter. Corral to Tapia Park, I only needed 1 liter. And then from Tapia Park to Dead Horse Trail, 2 liters. And then after that, to finish out, 13 miles was 3 liter carry. The Backbone Trail is a great trail for section hiking, and with a little water planning, you can make it a through hike. The complete hiker's guide to the Backbone Trail by the Chamberlains was an excellent resource of information for all of the sections and locations. The GPX coordinates for the full Backbone Trail, along with all of the GPS locations, can be downloaded from the video description.